You know, I can't say that Durian Rider is a nice guy, but he might be the nicest guy to ever make death threats against me on the internet. Um, One of the questions I've been asked, sometimes by my fellow vegans, at least once by a journalist. Some people have asked, like, oh, what have you guys said to each other, since this thing went down? Like, oh, like, has Durian Rider apologized to you? Like, what have you guys been talking about? And I had to say, we don't really talk. we're not really friends, me and Durian Rider. But I got a message from him today via Patreon. He writes, good to hear from you, Dr. Evil! Exclamation point. Hey, when is the lawsuit starting? 'Cause I've heard nothing so far. Tell me it isn't true that you took $10,000 that you got from your gullible audience to put Durian Rider in prison, and you did a runner with it. That would have been the funniest shit ever, mate. And then he has a smiling emoji. On some level, I wish we could resolve it that way. I wish I could say to him, yeah, it was all a scam. It was all a joke. We should meet up and have a laugh about it sometime. It would be wonderful if Durian Rider had taken any of the ways out that I offered him in the past. In American slang, giving someone an out. It's just contracting, giving someone a way out. Americans talk about that in terms of avoiding a fight or reducing conflict between people. He had a great opportunity way back when I made that apology video to Freely. It was a great, sincere video I did. I managed to find something to apologize for. At that point, it would have been very easy for Durian Rider to say, well, shame about all these threats of violence and, denunciations and defamation and so on. But, let's be reasonable. He could have very easily done it at that juncture. He could have done it at many, many other junctures. The journalist mentioned me at some point, apparently, on his blog. I haven't seen this. At some point, he remarked that the whole thing was regrettable because he was suffering from roid rage, that he felt that the side effects of the steroids were making him behave in a way. He never said that to me. He's never apologized to me, and so on. So at several different points, he's had a way out. If you wanted to be a mensch about it. But it reminds me of some things one of my history professors said this year. One of my history professors said, when you look at the history of the Soviet Union, you can't let yourself think, oh, this could have worked out. This could have gone so well if only Joseph Stalin was not Joseph Stalin. Or in looking at, the war with Germany, if only, Adolf Hitler was not Adolf Hitler, if only the Nazis were not the Nazis. These people were exactly who they were. The ideologies were what they were. And that's what made history so violent, so extreme, and so inflexible. I always felt, too, this is going back about a year, I always felt Durian Rider had plenty of ways out of some of the crazy pseudoscientific claims, some of the weakest parts of their diet they were selling. Everyone would have embraced them if they had just come out and said, you know what, we were wrong about garlic. You know what, garlic doesn't contain a neurotoxin. You know what, some of the details, some of the specific claims in the first version of our diet book, we took it a little too far. We went a little bit crazy with some of the rumors circulating in the raw vegan community, and, their own fans would have embraced them. A larger audience would have embraced them. They could have been reasonable and warm and accepting of criticism. But that's not who Durian Rider is, and that's not who Freely is either. It doesn't matter how many opportunities you give them to do the right thing. They do the wrong thing again and again and again out of a kind of sincere megalomania. And we've seen that now with Freely and this ridiculous fight with the so-called Get Upset channel, a fight over violation of copyright, of stealing someone else's content. It would have been so easy for her to apologize, for her to be a mensch, for her to take responsibility, and at any stage her audience would have supported her. It doesn't take much. But alas, I'm sorry, Durian Rider. It's not a scam. I wish it was. I really wish I could say to Durian Rider right now, you know what? You got me. It's a scam. You and me should sit down and drink some caffeine-free tea sometime and have a laugh about what a joke YouTube is, and have a laugh about the future of veganism. But I can't do it, and he can't do it either. I'll tell you what is a scam, though. PayPal. PayPal is a scam. I've got a quick review of 3 different international payment services, international bank transaction services, and it's all bad news. I finally got the news from Generosity. So just to mention, Generosity is the name of the website, but the company is the same company as Indiegogo. So Generosity is a more explicitly charity-oriented branch of Indiegogo. They're the same company, and you get lower rates. So the total amount donated at the beginning was $6,500 US. Out of that, $60 were returned. So I believe just 2 people lost faith in the fundraiser and asked for a refund, which of course I granted. I think one was for $10 and one was for $50. So the final total was $6,440. Okay, so obviously I'm happy everyone had faith in the projects. For the 2 people who didn't, of course, they got their $50 back or what have you. That's fine. The fees collected by, obviously I'm reading off the screen here, obviously I don't have this memorized. The fees collected by Generosity are over $300, $239.70 plus another $25, etc., etc. This reduces the amount I should in theory actually receive. The amount they're sending to me drops to only $6,175.30. And they finally sent that on July the 13th, and they predict it will arrive by July the 20th. So it has been much, much more than 15 days. And I have been talking to them, to their customer service, to their complaints desk. And there's really nothing interesting to say about it. This is the way the internet really works. This is the way international banking transactions work. And all they can say is, if you haven't received the funds by Wednesday, the 20th of July, then don't even bother calling them until 2 weeks have passed. And quite likely after 2 weeks, I'd have to get in touch with them, change the details. Maybe I'd have to send the money to Canada. And keep in mind, every time you do one of these transactions, both because you're switching between banks and because you're switching between currencies, you'll lose a few percentages of the value of the money. So at a minimum, this is being sent from the United States to China, we hope. So I don't know. What do I rate Generosity and Indiegogo on this process? I don't know, a 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10. We'll see. We'll see if the money ever gets here. And then once I've got the money here, can I get the money from China to the lawyers? Because, Joe Vegan had some real-world experience with these things. Joe Vegan is no fool. He was the one guy saying, no. International finance in mainland China is a nightmare. This stuff is not as quick or as easy as you want to believe it is. So that's one of the 3 services. The second one, only a few $100s were donated via PayPal. And the reason why I don't know the exact total, to be quite honest, is that PayPal receives the funds in separate currencies and keeps them separate. So, I've got like 50 Australian dollars and 50 British pounds and 50 Canadian dollars and some US dollars. So, I was actually afraid the opposite. I thought the big donations would go through PayPal, not through Generosity, but that's the opposite of what happened. So, that doesn't add up to very much. But PayPal has been 100% a complete disaster. And it will be absolutely impossible for me to get the money out of PayPal while I am in China. And the good news is it is so little money that I'm basically just going to note down on pencil and paper how much that was and reach into my own pocket and in my own mind say, okay, when I spend this money, I'm going to think of that as the money that was donated through PayPal. But PayPal, I paid a ton of money to be able to make international calls from China to the PayPal help desk. I spent a lot of time on the phone with them and, of course, email to their help desk. PayPal has been a combination of, in my opinion, corrupt and incompetent. because it is in their interest to be incompetent, to try to keep the money within their system, to refuse to let it get out, to refuse to let you move it into a bank account. And I have no excuses for PayPal. I told them in the final email I sent them, look, I've got 10,000 subscribers on YouTube, and I'm going to tell all 10,000 of them to never use PayPal. Or if you have to use PayPal, only move in the absolute minimum that you need to make a specific purchase, and then never use it again. So minimize your PayPal usage. Never use PayPal for a fundraiser. I'm shocked. I mean, at every stage, I certainly had low expectations of PayPal, and their conduct has been lower. They have, again, it's either total incompetence or it's a combination of incompetence and corruption. I have no reason to speculate on the extent to which it's one or the other. And finally, of course, there's Patreon. Here in China, I have still never received $1 from Patreon. Patreon works with a separate company that handles their international financial transactions, so it's not Patreon itself that would send or fail to send the money to me. But that company will only send an international transfer to China, to the People's Republic of China, if you are a citizen of China with a citizen's ID card and a citizen's number. Obviously, I am not a citizen of China. I'm a foreigner. And I wrote to them and said, look, this is impossible. There are more than 1 million foreign business people within China. It's a huge country with a huge market of foreign nationals doing international banking within China. How can it be that you only allow transfers to Chinese citizens? I'm a Canadian citizen inside China. It must be possible to do this. And I had all the paperwork to prove my bank account and everything else. And they wrote back and said, no, that's how we do it. If you're in China, you must be a Chinese citizen to receive a bank transfer from our service. Period. So what do you rate that? A 0 out of 10? I don't know. Unbelievable. So of all the money that I might have collected through donations, through Patreon support, and what have you, absolutely zero, not even $1, has ever made its way to me here in China. That may change in the future, that may not. And in terms of Patreon, of course, it may be that I can eventually collect that money when I'm in Canada. That's just while I'm in China that I can't collect that money. Honestly, PayPal is the worst. PayPal, I do not think I will ever collect that money anywhere. I don't think I can do it in Canada. I don't think I can do it in China. I don't think I could get that done anywhere. Anyway, doesn't even bear thinking about. So look, it's a shame. I kind of want to make separate videos on some of these topics. If you were to ask, why can't we all just get along? Sadly, there are very real, very palpable answers to why we all can't just get along. It would be wonderful if people who shared the goal of making the world a better place, of promoting veganism, were cooperating instead of threatening to go to one another's apartments, kick down the door, beat them up, drag them to a police station. It would be great if Durian Rider were the sort of person who could bury the hatchet when he is so clearly in the wrong. If he was someone who could actually apologize for falsely alleging that I'm a sexual predator, instead of making a video that rolls in with a phony apology, 10 other allegations. The allegation, he goes right on from his admitting that he just invented the notion that I was a pedophile. He rolls right into accusing me of being a wife beater and all these other things. It would be wonderful if he could just stop and do something positive. But he can't. And he won't unless we force him to stop. The game won't stop until we say stop. And so again, I thank you, all the people who donated money to this cause. And I can't guarantee outcomes. I can only guarantee that I'm going to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. But it seems that Australia, unlike the United States, unlike many other countries, it seems that the judges are quite tolerant of Durian Rider and his act. And look, I said in that earlier video, I think there's a 0% chance that Durian Rider's antics that his defamation of me, his allegations against me, will impact my own divorce case, which is instead happening at a court in France. But you never know. Maybe I get to that court in France, and when I'm walking up to the courthouse, there's the judge, and he's getting off his bicycle. He's got a lime green Bianchi long-distance racing bike. And the judge gets off his bike, takes off his bike helmet, puts on his judge's wig, turns and looks at me, and says, "You're that shit cunt I saw on Durianriders channel." Could it be that the French judge who's going to rule in my divorce case turns out to be Durianriders' #1 fan?